All right, we're going to work on this small little eye for a cute little puppy. Let me get this picture in here. This was a reference photo for Reference Photos for Artists, and you get a bunch of free different pictures, and I just love this little puppy. But we are actually going to just focus in on his eye. Look at those beautiful colors that are in there. They're showing up a little bit more purple here than they really are. They're a little more blue. So if you wanted to go to referencephotosforartists.com and print him off, first off, I drew the eye, and as you can see, his eye is really slanted this way, then it's curved really nice up here at the top, coming down into the little tissue part here, and then I made the big iris, and I took careful enough time to draw out each of the little highlights in the eye. That's a better color adjustment. This one kind of looks like a squared off comma, then there was just a little dot, and then there's a little highlight right in through this area, and this is the pupil, and this large area here is the iris. This is the outer ring of the iris, which is this dark purpley blue area around the outside of the iris, and there's lighter in the middle. And then the rest of this is the skin area, the white part of the hair coming into the face, and then all of this will be black. Now I drew these little lines just kind of indicate where there's a shine in the black fur here that I really wanted to capture. It's just hard for me to show that to you on screen. Next time I'll have these printed out, but you can see the highlight right through here. It's black, and then there's a shine, and then there's black again. So before we got started, I created a bunch of black in my palette. This is sepia, which is the darkest brown that you can get. So this is the way it looks. So it's very warm and dark. Always clean off your brush before you go to the water, or just dirties up your water really fast. This is alizarin crimson, which is bright red. So y'all can see that that's this purpley red, and it's a very dark red. And then this is indigo. And I've used Payne's Gray before, but I really like indigo. Sometimes if I want a really bluish black, you know, for night sky or something like that, you can use phthalo blue. It's absolutely beautiful. But if you mix all of these three colors together, you get this really nice, rich black color that you can make yourself instead of using a very flat color like a lamp black or something. So we're gonna get started doing our little quick eye. Let's see, there we go. So I want to make sure that you guys can see this well, and that we have everything available. We've got our brush. I got a variety of brushes. These are some of my favorites. It's the Silver brand. They're black velvets, and so I have a 2, I have a 4, and then I have a 10 to do any large areas and stuff like that. I also have a couple of riggers that I like to use, and this one is a Robert Simmons, Simply Simmons, and it's just the really long ones if I need to do some of the longer hairs that I'm not going to do with the 2 and stuff. All right, so we're going to start in with ultramarine blue, which is a beautiful blue. I'm going to scoot this over just so that you can see it. And this is going to be the base color for the blue part of the eye. And so I'm going to water it just a little bit. You do want to make sure you have enough pigment that it's, whoops, sorry. I went to the cobalt. There we go. And we're going to put this in the blue areas of his eye, which are all around in here, all around the outer edges, and then up into his fur just a little bit. So I'm going to really water it down to come up here into his fur. This is just going to be some underlying color in that highlight. So I'm just going to add that in first, and then when we put the black on top, it'll that will kind of shine through. And we're just adding this blue all the way around the eye into all these places. And then here we go with watercolor. We would have to wait for all this to dry. It's not very, very wet, so I can go ahead and add in my blacks on the fur, especially up towards the top. So I'm just filling this in. You may have to, especially with black, you know, do a couple of coats. And I'm just flinging in some little hairs that we can come back and darken later. I'd make more of them actually. So this is a really dark gray, going carefully around that blue so it doesn't blend into the wet, and then away. Always like to go make the motions in the direction of the fur, because even your under layers are going to show. So if I were to go sideways, it would just, you know, flatten it out. So study your subject and see which way the fur grows. And then here it's starting to curve. So I'm just going to make some curve marks. And it comes down into the nose this way. So it's really important to leave these little white hairs the white of the paper. So you have to kind of plan ahead a little bit when you have some white fur going into a dark space. And then the black goes all the way around to this side. And the hair is actually growing this way, in this direction, and then it loops back this way into that shine. So making this line right here kind of is going to make it a little bit more flat, and I don't want that, so I'm going to go over it with the right direction of the fur. And this is a highlighted area, and then it's like really black right after that, but it does curve around as well. And then it meets up with these white ones. This is the little white hair of the dog. There are some striations this way. And in that black fur, it is super black in certain areas. We may have to wait for this to dry, which it's drying pretty quickly because I have the air on. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear me. There we go. And along this part of his face, we're just gonna create some more hairs. That would be the whites. That's so funny. All right, we're gonna need that to dry. So we're gonna jump into the interior of the eye. Once again, we're using our black. If you need to make more, it's just, you know, pretty much even mixture of the three colors. If you get to where you're using it, it's a little too purple, that means you have too much blue, so add a little bit more brown. And until you get that nice black tone. Now this area coming up from the side of his eye, let's see if I can hold that flatter, sorry, is going to just pretty much be ultra black. A lot of these are gonna get darker too, so watercolor is all about layers, right? Lots of layers. I actually do the same thing with pencil, colored pencil, whatever is that you're working with. You're going to want lots of layers. Just makes it more realistic and gives more depth to the fur and all that kind of stuff. So this area is also very black. Part of the eye. And the pupil part right here in the center is the blackest of the black in the eye. Stay up on point when you're trying to go around something really small like this little highlights. There we go. That's the blackest part of the pupil. So the rest of it is still black, but you're just going to water it down a little bit more. So I'm going to pull a little bit of the black out here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of water to it so that I get a nice dark gray. And I'm going to take it out to that edge. That's probably a little too watery. So I'm going to take a dry brush and just thirsty brush that excess water out. There's a little line of black on the other side of that highlight. And I'm just dabbing in around these just to give it kind of that dispersed black look. So we want it darker in the center and lighter as it goes out. Into the space. Just dabbing those little dots in. Okay? So now we're pretty wet in the middle, so I can't do the iris. So I'm going to go to this skin area around the dog, and that's going to be using the same blue that we did, but we're going to need to darken it. So I'm going to use a little bit of Payne's Gray. So this is what Payne's Gray looks like. It's kind of dark, and I'm going to mix it with some of my ultramarine blue so that I've darkened the ultramarine. And I'm going along this second line that I made, and I'm just creating a space for two lines, and that stops right at the bottom of the eye. This part right here is part of the iris, and then there's this dark blue over in the corner. And then you're going to soften your edges. That means you're going to clean out your brush when you don't have any paint, just water, and you're going to go along that edge and let some of that color bleed out so that you get a gradation. just like that. I lost a little bit of the dark for that area because it is pretty dark. It's these little dots, whoops. It's these little dots right in here, and they stop at the bottom. So I'm just gonna add that back in. Just right along that line. Dot, 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 and stop at the bottom. Okay, a lot of time white hair is not always, you know, just truly white. And in this dog's hair, there is a tad bit of brown, but it is so light in the white area. So we're just gonna very lightly put in along this gray edge a little bit of striations of brown, and I just have a little bit of sienna, and I'm gonna splay my bristles like this. Hopefully y'all can see that where it looks like a little tiny fan brush. And I'm gonna go in the direction of the fur. Well, I don't have enough paint. I remember watercolor dries a lot lighter. I know a lot of people don't like to do this with their good brushes, but I'm telling you, I have never had a problem with the silver black velvets not going back to their points. They're honestly, they're just amazing, right? And then along the top is just a little bit of blue. You can actually see the blue in the white part of the fur into here. So I'm just going to put in a few little lines of fur. And there is a little bit underneath the brown. Look really closely to your reference photo. Follow the direction that you see. And at this point, look at that point. Isn't that amazing? Just goes right back. So always just roll it to a point on my towel before I ever store them as well. And you can put some of these little lines in a little more intentional, I guess is a good word, to do these little tiny lines. Okay, and up here in this highlight, I wanted to do the same thing, but I'm going to use a little bit larger brush. When I'm actually going to just continue to use this one. I am going to use the black over it, splaying those bristles to get some of the really small little hairs that you would see in that highlight. I don't want to cover over all the blue, but it's going to be covered a lot, so that you end up with this nice shine. And then when you take the black up into there, it will you know, create this really nice shine for you. I'm gonna, sorry, hold that flat without casting a shadow. Let's see what I can do. So you get some of those black lines on top, gray lines, as well as the blue lines, right? So then we're just gonna go in with the black and do our second coat. Well, I got a little too much blue, so that means I'm gonna put a little more brown. Makes me a beautiful black. And you can do this just with your tip. It will take, you know, a little longer to do your hairs this way. But, well, my goodness. I should have taped this down. I'm sorry, guys. But you can literally just make all these little marks on top. It will take a little while, but it looks amazing. And so you have built up all these layers, and come up underneath this eye here, and they come out. There's a little space, and then those come out. kind of a overlapping. Don't let them all end up being the same length or the same thickness. You know, just kind of really take your time and do a lot of very random strokes over this the entirety of the black fur. So that isn't going to show up as dark as I wanted. So I'm going to do another layer right in here. And this is kind of the little short hairs that are going right into what would be the skin part of the dog, which is the blue part. That's his skin. And then it curves this way all the way down. Yeah. So you're just adding in tons and tons and tons of those. If the color starts to get too much the same, mix it a little bit thicker on your palette. Don't add as much water so that you can get all these different variations of color into the fur. And that's just going to make it even more amazing. It seems like I can do about a good 10 before I've got to go back and get some more color. And that's a little too brown. There we go. Stay up on point to get these little skinny hairs. And if you were doing a really long hair dog, you just take them longer, right? But being close to the eye, they're not, you know, super long hair. It's not a sheepdog. Actually, it's a herd dog, but it's not a sheepdog. Once again, if you guys have not heard about reference photos for artists, it's a wonderful free group of artists. They even have a Facebook page where everybody posts their photography. It's amazing. And anything you can ever kind of think of, you're going to find there. And there are artists from all over the world. So things that are not even here near us, you'll get to see. Not only other states, but other countries. It's amazing. If I haven't said that enough, well, sorry. I'm going back to this picture to see which way. That is absolutely black next to those whites on the top here. So we're going to make those little white hairs stand out by painting black around them, and then they go up and these go around. I'm just trying to follow the directions to make it as realistic as possible. I like that look. And this area right here is really black. So up to this is just thick black. So I'm going to make a large amount of it. Getting a large amount of alizarin crimson. Working in the sepia, which is dark, dark, dark brown. Put another drop on that. You want to work up the color into that water so you don't take runny paint over to the thicker mixture, right? And then it just makes that amazing black. Just gorgeous. So I can get it like really super black. And that's right in here. Oh, I like that. It has a little bit of blue to it, which is going to really bring out that blue stuff in the eyes that's going on. little bit of blue that's in the fur. And I think now that I've got the black in, that this little gray area above the eye is not dark enough. You know, sometimes until you get the darks dark enough, do you know if you've, you know, how light the lights need to be, or so we'll definitely have to darken that, but I can't do it right now. I'll just run right into this black. And I want that to be really dark. And then this is really dark over here. So I'm gonna do another coat while I've got this thick out. It's along this line. And I never did do out into here just because I kind of need some place to hold it, but you guys know to go into that space and finish up the hair. Get all that black out. Put that brush away. Okay, we're gonna go inside the eye. This is like the favorite part of it, right? And I'm going to put in a wash of wet ultramarine blue. Make it a little bit darker, but not too dark because the middle part is light. So I'm going to go into this part of the eye, very carefully going around all those little highlights that we drew in. And up here at the top, that's actually going to be black. So we're going to do that whole area is the pupil. And then right along the outer edge, I'm going to go with that indigo to create this outer ring right here. And we're just going to kind of drop some of that color in that outer ring, and it's going to spread into that semi-wet space. Not thick enough, because I want it really dark. There we go. This space is not as wet as it was, but we can drop that in. Then I'm going to splay the bristles again, and I didn't splay them as far as I did for the hair, but I just kind of want to pull up some of these little tiny like striations, or I don't know, they're the little lines in the eye, and this little dog has a bunch of them. There, all the way around. The pupil. Let's play that again. And then right in the center is more of a kind of a greenish color. So we can go like super bold and use like a phthalo mixed with the blue, and that would give us this, you know, lovely teal color. And that's going to be just right in here. It's just a little hint of it. And then right across the pupil and everything is a cast shadow from the skin on the top. And so I'm going to use, not black, I'm sorry. That is not what I want. The dark blue, and I might add a little bit of black to it, just a tad, just to make it darker. But I need it kind of thick. So this is going all the way across the eye, the pupil, everything like this. I went into that area a little bit. And this fleshy part down here it's a little bit darker than what I have it, so I'm going to use that same color. Kind of ties it together, you know, make sure you use the same colors into the eye. And then water that out. Kind of just soften that edge. And the skin area is black coming up into here. So we're going to go back to our black. Get it kind of thick. And it actually, I didn't draw this exactly right. This comes up into the this part and then comes around. So we're just gonna kind of add that in, add a few little hairs. There's nothing wrong with changing the sketch as you need to. And this is a dark gray. So I'm just going to kind of water down what's on my brush and fill in that section. Now inside the pupil part, there is also some of that tealy green. So, and that is right in this space. We're going to add a little bit of that into there. And that highlight is almost like a purple. So I'm going to mix a little bit of, I almost hate to add just purple in one spot, but we can always put it in another. So this little highlight right here is a really kind of pale purple. And then we're going to get our watered down black, which I left it off, so let me get a little bit more. Here we go. And we're going to splay the bristles again, and we're going to come out of the iris this time towards the outer part of the eye. The watered down version isn't working as well as I'd hoped, so I'm going to try making it a little bit thicker. Because it was just kind of running together instead of making the little lines that I wanted. And the shadow, whoops, got much lighter. So we're going to turn right around and put that back in. And you just get to play with this until you make your eye look the way you want it to. This is that skin right next to the eye. And this part of the highlight is very, very, very white. But there is just a touch, and I'm going to use the smaller brush and go to my little 2 round brush, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that blue, and just across the top up here there's a little bit of blue. Just touches that darker line and the bottom of this circle. Oh my darn, there you go. So you just keep building up your layers, building up color, doing all the hairs in the right direction. Wow, that's really gonna make it pop. So I took a little bit of the blue with the black because this is really dark ring around his eye. And I'm gonna put that in. And then I'm gonna tap out some little lines around the edges. And then I'm gonna make the black part, this is the actual skin above the eye, or the lid or whatever. And it's not the shadow. So I want to show a difference in where the skin is and where the shadow is. All right, well, I hope you're enjoying this. Just keep adding in all the little bits that you want to do. This was the area I said was too light, so I'm just going to add in a little bit more color into there. I still want it to be a lighter area of skin than this area, but you just keep adding in all the little details until you get it dark enough, until you get it the way you want. And I hope you had fun doing our little eye. I'll see you next time.